Hi, Room 112 friends. This week we are learning about the holiday of Shavuot. So I'm going to read you the book, Sammy Spider's First Shavuot. The author, the one who writes all the words, is Sylvia Rouse, and the illustrator, the one that draws all the pictures, is Catherine Janice Kahn. Let's learn about Sammy and his mommy and what they learn about Shavuot. One warm afternoon near the end of spring, Sammy Spider and his mommy were snuggled in their web on the Shapiro's kitchen ceiling. Sammy glanced down and noticed Mrs. Shapiro carefully measuring a cupful of flour. "What is Mrs. Shapiro doing?" Sammy asked. "She is following a recipe for making blintzes. She will serve them this evening when the holiday of Shavuot begins." "What's a recipe?" Sammy asked. "It's a list of instructions," Mrs. Spider answered. And Mrs. Shapiro's using flour and milk and sugar and cottage cheese for her blintzes. First, she measured the flour. Then she added eggs. Now she is mixing in some milk. "What is Mrs. Shapiro doing now?" Sammy asked. First, she made thin pancakes. Then she put a spoonful of cheese filling into the middle of each one. Now she is rolling them up to make the blintzes, responded Mrs. Spider. Have you guys ever had blintzes before? They're yummy. "Can we make blintzes for Shavuot?" pleaded Sammy. Silly little Sammy. "Spiders don't celebrate Shavuot. Spiders spin webs," replied his mommy. Sammy lowered himself on a strand of webbing. He watched Mrs. Shapiro ladle some mixture into a frying pan. Suddenly, a drop of hot oil splattered upward and barely missed Sammy, who scurried back up to his web. "Phew, that was close," sighed Mrs. Spider. "Should we ever get near the frying pan?" "No, it's really hot and that could burn us, so we let mommies or daddies do that." Sammy looked down and saw Mr. Shapiro at the sink. "What is Mr. Shapiro doing?" he asked his mommy. "First, he washed the berries," she said. "Then he sliced them. Now he is mixing them with sugar." So Mr. Shapiro is helping Mrs. Shapiro make the blintzes. "Shavuot celebrates the first fruits of spring," explained Mrs. Spider. "Mr. Shapiro is preparing strawberry toppings for the blintzes." Sammy lowered himself as Mr. Shapiro sliced into a fat, juicy strawberry. The juice splashed up into Sammy's startled face. "Yummy," said Sammy, licking the sweet juice. He climbed back towards his mommy. "Would you like a taste?" he offered. "Silly little Sammy," grinned Mrs. Spider. "Spiders don't eat strawberries. Spiders spin webs." Just then, Josh burst into the kitchen carrying a small object. "Is that a blintz?" asked Sammy. "No," laughed Mrs. Spider. It's a little Torah scroll Josh got at Hebrew school. It's like the large Torah scrolls that are read in synagogue on Shabbat and on the holidays. Shavuot celebrates the time when God gave the Torah to Moses, Mrs. Spider explained. First, Moses taught it to the Jewish people. Then they taught it to their children. So the Torah gets passed down from generation to generation. Now it continues. Josh is learning the Torah from his parents the way they learned it from theirs. "What is it about?" asked Sammy. "The Torah tells the story of the Jewish people. It also has rules about how to treat others with love, kindness, and respect," said Mrs. Spider. "Is it a recipe for living?" questioned Sammy thoughtfully. "That's a good way to describe it," agreed Mrs. Spider. Josh gently placed the little scroll on the table next to a vase filled with fresh flowers. The blintzes smell delicious, he said. May I try one? First, I want you to take a plate of blintzes to our new neighbors, said his mother. Then come back, wash your hands, and you may have a blintz. So isn't that nice? Josh is taking some blintzes over to his neighbors. Eager to get a closer look at the little Torah, Sammy zoomed down and landed right in the middle of the flowers. Achoo, he sneezed. A fine yellow powder covered him from head to feet. Startled, he darted back to his web. Look at all the colorful flowers. Mrs. Spider chuckled as she dusted the yellow powder off her sneezing little Sammy. You've had quite a day. First, you were nearly splattered with oil. Then you got splashed with strawberry juice. Now you are covered in pollen. You must be tired. Mother, I think I know a spider's recipe for living, he said, yawning. First, let's get you ready for bed, said Mrs. Spider. Then you can tell me what you've learned. Mrs. Spider tucked Sammy into his web. He whispered something in her ear. I wonder what he's going to say to her. You're right, little Sammy, Mrs. Spider said. Now let's say it together. Spiders spin webs. The end. Enjoy Shavuot.